Welcome to the Limnology boat tour on Lake Mendota. Actually, it's a sampling trip in which the Grandparents University participants will be doing the work and I'll be doing the talking. This is a part of Grandparents University, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and we're looking at the Limnology lab on the shore of Lake Mendota, which is where the Limnology program on the campus is centered. Limnology is the study of
inland waters?
Inland waters, you got it. Not just lakes, but streams and ponds and even groundwater. So welcome aboard. We're going to go out between here and Picnic Point and sample the water, asking a general question of what color is the water? Well, the simple question we're going to ask is what color is the water in Lake Mendota? And that's easy to do. You've got eyes, you can just look overboard, look down into the water, and both of you don't listen to each other, but just give me your answer of what color you see.
Green.
Green, I heard from Leo.
It's like a blue-greenish?
Blue-greenish, I heard from Bryn. All right, so it's greenish or blue-greenish. Now, the next thing we're going to do is take a sample of water down at 10 meters, and maybe that's about 30 feet, and at about 5 or 6 meters, and we're going to look through the water and ask again what color is the water. All right, so let's get ready to do that. All right, well, we're going to take a sample of the water with what they call a water bottle, and one of the problems limnologists have is how do you get a water sample from depth, you know, like 30 feet or so, without it being contaminated. And what we've done here is we've opened up this water sampler and we're going to lower it like this down into the water, and then we're going to drop the messenger and it closes, and so we've trapped the water in this sampler from that depth. Okay, well, let's cock it again, and this time we'll do it for real. Now we're going to lower this down to about 30 feet. That should be 10 meters. Okay, lower that to the water level. And then, Leo, do you want to let the messenger go?
Sure.
Let her go. And then you can tell me when it hits.
Right.
Did you feel it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up.
We can see it. Oh, gosh.
Let's put it out in the sunlight so we can look at it.
It looks clear.
What do you think, Leo? Clear as a bell. And it's also not the same as surface water. Let's pull this out and let the water run over your hands. Pull hard. Oh, maybe I can help.
Wow, it's really
Is it hot or cold?
cold.
Okay. All right, so now you know how to do this. Why don't you trade jobs this time? You be the messenger and the winder, and you be the lowerer. And we want to put it down about as far down as you are tall.
Okay.
All right, up it comes.
Over to John.
What color's the water?
Clear.
All right, well, isn't that a conundrum? The water looks green, but when you take a small sample from the water column, whether it's deep or shallow, the water looks clear. Well, the next thing we're going to do is lower what we call a Secchi depth disc into the water, and that'll tell you how far the light is penetrating into the lake, and also give you some more insight about what the color is. Some of you may have used a Secchi depth disc before, and so you're going to lower it into the water until it just disappears, and then we're going to see how deep that is. Can anybody see it?
I can see a bit of it.
Well, let's go down a little bit more then. How about now?
No.
Okay, well, let's haul it up, and
look.
that red mark is what we need to keep track of. That red mark is at the water surface when you couldn't see it anymore. Okay, so each one of those is about 3 feet, right? So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 feet about.
Wow.
So it's pretty clear. And the water, when you just take a sample, looks clear. But when it just before it disappeared, it began to look what color?
Green.
Okay. Well, the next thing we're going to do is sample the water with a net and see what that green stuff is. And it's built to capture plankton. Well, what is plankton? Plankton is small plants and animals that are suspended in the water or hang in the water. And so this has a very fine mesh, and it should capture the animals. I don't think we're going to get a muskie. And it should capture the algae or the green stuff. Boy, we've got a perfect day out here. Hold it in board, and why don't you hold the bottle underneath it, and we're going to wash some of this stuff off the net. And then we're going to let it all into the bottle. Well,
It's green.
yeah. Well, what we've done is we've taken the algae at all those depths and concentrated it into a small container. And let's pour a little more water in here and we'll see what these things look like. We're going to look at what they look like when we get back to shore under the microscope.
Tiny. It's like little bugs.
Now if we hold this up and look very carefully, notice that those little things that you called bugs are all near the bottom.
Yeah.
And those are called water fleas. They've got a beautiful scientific name, Daphnia. And they eat the algae. And so the algae is like the leaves and the acorns in the forest. And these little animals here on the bottom are the squirrels and the birds and the snakes that eat the stuff that falls off the tree. So we've sampled a whole food web here. Plants in here, which we call algae, or some of them are actually bacteria, green bacteria. And then we've got little animals that we call Daphnia, which are crustacea. They're related to things like crabs, and they eat the algae. Who eats the Daphnia?
Spiny water fleas.
What eats it?
Spiny water fleas.
Okay, so if you have a predaceous, bigger water flea, that's one thing that eats it. Who else might eat the Daphnia?
Fish.
Fish would eat the Daphnia. Baby bluegills and baby walleyes, they would all eat it. And then who eats the baby bluegills?
Bigger fish.
And who eats the bigger fish?
Bigger fish.
And who eats that bigger fish?
People.
People, right. So this is the base of a food web that eventually some of it ends up on your dining room table. The next thing we're going to do is look at what happens to these little plants and animals over the years. They don't live forever. In fact, they're very short lives. Some of them just live a few months. And where would you expect to find them when they're dead?
At the bottom.
At the bottom, like the leaves under the forest floor. So we're going to look at the floor underneath where these things are after they've lived out their lifetime. All right, this is a dredge. It's got the name associated with the man who originally designed it, a man called Ekman. It's called an Ekman dredge. Designed this, and we have to do the same thing we did with the water bottle. We need a way of opening the bottom of the dredge. And there you see it's half open. And then after we get it fully open, we're going to drop a messenger down. And it's going to close. So this is a little dangerous. You don't want to be part of the sample. All right. Bryn, do you want to lower it?
Sure.
It's heavy. And it's going to take a while because it's quite deep here.
Yeah. Should I start lowering?
Yeah. Okay, now hold the line taut, but not lift the bottom off. Don't lift it off the bottom and keep it taut. And let the messenger go. And again, tell me when it hits.
Yeah, we got a sample.
Okay, lift it up over the rail.
Oh gosh, this is so much.
Don't drop it. Get it in the boat.
Beautiful! All right, so what do you think we're going to see in here? All right. Well, there's several things that are kind of interesting here. Before we stir it, see those lines?
Yeah.
Well, that's between those lines are 1 year of sedimentation.
Wow.
And so the lake is slowly filling from the bottom of all this stuff we've been looking at. First thing to do is put your hand in it and tell me what temperature it is.
It's cold.
Are you surprised?
Yeah, I was expecting it to be warmer.
Okay, well, the leaves, like the oak trees, they turn brown in the fall. But if you walk in the forest floor, you can kick up the leaves and they're big particles. Whereas there's nothing big here at all. It's just these little microscopic plants and animals that have died and sunk to the bottom. And every year, and the same thing happens with in the forest too, there's a buildup of soil in the forest floor. And there's also a buildup of layers in the bottom of Lake Mendota, and you saw some of those layers. And the fact that those layers were maybe 5 to 10 millimeters wide tells you how much organic material has fallen from the lake water into the lake. Now the other thing that happens is limnologists can take a deep core sample, and they can take a core of this mud not just for the first foot or two, but 4, 5, 6 feet. And then you can begin to look at the sediments that were put down here 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, and those that are on it today. And after a while, you begin to see the whole history of the lake laid out in the sediment cores, like just those lines that we saw were the recent history of just the last 10 years or so. What are you going to do next? Well, we're going to go ashore and look at what we caught. Well, the sample we caught in that plankton net had algae in it of many, many different kinds, and it also had animal plankton, the daphnia, in it. And the daphnia are foraging on those algae. And at this time of the year, this is mid-June, the reason the water was so clear was because there are so many daphnia that they've in fact eaten up a lot of the algae. And make sure when you look at a picture under the microscope, you look at the gut of the daphnia, and you'll see that it's a brilliant green. And so that's evidence, direct evidence, that those are eating the algae. And we sort of think of the daphnia as our friends, because oftentimes the algae are so abundant that the lake is not pleasant for us to be working in and swimming in. And the daphnia are one of the things that keep the lake clear. Well, thank you for joining us at the Limnology program as part of Grandparents University today. We started with a really simple question. What color is the water? So, now maybe you know the answer. What color is the water?
It's clear.
It's clear. What gives it the color are all the things that are in the water. And that's another problem, another issue. But you now know that algae are why you can't see very far down in this lake like Mendota and Mendota. Thank you for coming.